Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made. Those were the words my former mother-in-law proudly said to my face. She thought she had finally won. She thought my divorce had destroyed me. What she didn't know was that 5 minutes later, a truth she had spent years ignoring would change everything. Welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy emotional family drama stories, shocking betrayals, and satisfying endings where karma always catches up, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Now, let's get into today's story. My name is Anna, and 2 years ago I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to a man named Michael. We had been together for almost 8 years. For most people around us, we looked like the perfect couple. Nice house, stable jobs, weekend vacations, family dinners, smiling pictures on social media. From the outside, everything looked wonderful. But behind closed doors, things were very different. Because I wasn't just married to Michael. In many ways, I was married to his mother too. Her name was Patricia. And from the very first day I met her, she made one thing very clear. I wasn't good enough for her son. At first, I ignored the comments. Michael deserves someone more sophisticated. You should really learn how our family does things. My son always liked prettier girls when he was younger. She always smiled after saying cruel things, as if insulting me was some kind of game. Whenever I told Michael how hurt I felt, he always gave the same answer. That's just how Mom is. Don't take it personally. For years I stayed quiet. I convinced myself things would improve. I convinced myself love required patience. And maybe most importantly, I convinced myself that Michael would eventually choose me. But he never did. Whenever Patricia criticized me, he stayed silent. Whenever she crossed boundaries, he stayed silent. Whenever she treated me like an outsider in my own marriage, he stayed silent. Looking back now, I realize something. Relationships don't usually end because of one huge event. They end because of thousands of small disappointments. And eventually, those disappointments become impossible to ignore. Things got worse after I received a major promotion at work. Instead of celebrating with me, Patricia accused me of neglecting Michael. Successful women forget their priorities. Men don't like wives who work too much. Ironically, Michael loved the extra income my promotion provided. But he hated defending me. Then one night, everything changed. I overheard Patricia talking to Michael in the kitchen. She didn't know I was upstairs. She's changed you. You're miserable. You deserve better. And then I heard something that shattered my heart. Michael didn't defend me. He simply said, "Maybe you're right." That sentence destroyed something inside me. 6 months later, we were divorced. No screaming. No dramatic courtroom battle. Just two people signing papers and walking away. And honestly, the saddest part wasn't losing my husband. It was realizing I had spent years fighting for someone who had stopped fighting for me long ago. After the divorce, I rebuilt my life. I focused on work. I moved into a beautiful apartment. I traveled. I reconnected with old friends. Slowly, I started feeling happy again. And for the first time in years, I felt peaceful. Then one afternoon, I received an invitation. Michael's cousin Emily was getting married. And despite the divorce, she still wanted me there. I almost declined. But Emily had always been kind to me. So I agreed. I honestly believed I could handle one evening. I was wrong. Because that wedding would become the place where Patricia decided to humiliate me one last time. And she had absolutely no idea that the biggest surprise of the night wasn't waiting for me. It was waiting for her. By the time I arrived at Emily's wedding, I had already given myself 3 separate pep talks in the car. Smile, be polite, avoid unnecessary drama, and most importantly, leave early. I truly wasn't there for Michael. I wasn't there for Patricia. I was there because Emily had stood by me during the divorce when most people quietly chose sides. She never judged me. She never asked uncomfortable questions. She simply said, "You were family to me before the divorce, and you'll always be family to me." Those words meant more than she probably realized. As I entered the venue, I immediately felt nervous. The ballroom was beautiful. Soft lights, fresh flowers, live music, people laughing and taking pictures. For a moment, I relaxed. Maybe this evening wouldn't be so bad. Then I saw Michael, and standing beside him was Patricia. The same confident smile, the same perfectly styled hair, the same expression that had haunted me for years. She saw me almost instantly, and I knew that look. Patricia loved audiences. She loved attention. And most of all, she loved winning. To my surprise, Michael looked uncomfortable when he noticed me. He nodded politely. Anna! Hi, Michael. It was awkward, but peaceful. Exactly what I wanted. Unfortunately, Patricia had other plans. She walked toward me with a fake smile. Oh my goodness, Anna. I almost didn't recognize you. I smiled politely. It's nice to see you too, Patricia. She looked me up and down. Well, you seem fine. That pause before the word fine told me everything. But I refused to engage. I hope you're doing well, I said. Then I tried to walk away, but she stepped closer. You know, Anna, I've always believed everything happens for a reason. I stayed silent. And honestly, she smiled proudly. Leaving you was the best decision my son ever made. Several nearby guests stopped talking. I could actually feel people listening. My heart sank, not because her words hurt, but because I was exhausted. Even after the divorce, even after all this time, she still needed to humiliate me. I quietly replied, I'm glad Michael found what he wanted. But Patricia wasn't satisfied. She laughed loudly. Oh, trust me, sweetheart. Michael is much happier now. He finally has peace. And frankly, I always knew you weren't right for him, the old Anna would have cried. The old Anna would have apologized. The old Anna would have tried to defend herself. But that woman no longer existed. I simply smiled. Then I'm happy for him. For the first time, Patricia looked disappointed. Because she wanted a reaction. She wanted tears. She wanted victory. And I wasn't giving her one. Just then, Emily's father announced that dinner would begin. Everyone slowly moved toward their tables. Thankfully, my assigned seat was far away from Patricia. I thought the worst part of the evening was over. I was wrong. Halfway through dinner, Emily's maid of honor gave an emotional speech. People laughed, people cried, everything felt beautiful. Then suddenly the microphone stopped working. Guests looked confused. The wedding coordinator rushed around trying to fix it. And that's when someone unexpectedly stood up. Michael. He walked toward the stage. Everyone smiled, assuming he was helping. Even Patricia looked proud. But something about his face seemed different. He looked nervous. Very nervous. Then he took the microphone, and what he said next made the entire room go silent. My mother just told Anna that leaving her was the best decision I ever made. The ballroom froze. I stopped breathing. Patricia's smile disappeared instantly. Michael continued. And honestly, she's wrong. You could hear a pin drop, Patricia whispered. Michael, sit down, but he ignored her. For the first time in almost 10 years, my ex-husband finally looked like a man. He turned toward me, and then he said something I never expected to hear. Anna, I failed you, my eyes filled with tears. Not because I wanted him back, not because I missed our marriage, but because I had waited years to hear those words. Patricia stood up immediately. Michael, stop this right now, but he continued, I let everyone believe the divorce was your fault. I stayed silent while people judged you, and worst of all, I stayed silent while my mother destroyed our marriage. The entire family stared at Patricia. She looked horrified, because for the first time in her life, nobody was protecting her. Then Michael said the words that changed everything. I didn't leave Anna because she was a bad wife. I lost Anna because I wasn't a good husband. Patricia looked like she couldn't breathe. Guests exchanged shocked glances. Some people even started whispering. And then, a woman I had never seen before suddenly stood up from another table. She looked furious. And when she pointed directly at Patricia and Michael, I realized this night wasn't over, not even close, because the woman standing across the room was Michael's new girlfriend, and apparently, she had just learned something no one had told her. The entire ballroom fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. All eyes shifted toward the woman standing near the back of the room. Her name was Claire. I recognized her immediately. She was Michael's new girlfriend. I had seen pictures of her online, but this was the first time we had ever been in the same room. And judging by the expression on her face, something was terribly wrong. Claire slowly walked toward Michael. Her eyes filled with tears. Is this true? She asked. Michael looked confused. Claire, what are you talking about? She pointed toward Patricia. You told me Anna left you. You told me she stopped loving you. You told me she destroyed your marriage. The room became completely silent. Michael lowered his head. And that was all the answer she needed. Claire laughed bitterly. Oh my God, you lied to me too. Patricia immediately jumped in. Sweetheart, don't listen to this nonsense, but Claire turned toward her. No, I've listened to you for almost a year, and now I understand why Anna left. Patricia's face turned red. I beg your pardon? Claire shook her head. You interfere in everything. You criticize everyone. And honestly, Patricia, you're exhausting. A few people gasped. Patricia looked completely stunned. Because throughout her life, people had always stayed quiet. Nobody had ever challenged her publicly. Until now. Claire looked back at Michael. I asked you 100 times if there was another side to the story, and every time you blamed Anna. But tonight? She glanced at me. I finally met the villain, and then she pointed directly at Patricia. It's not her. Patricia almost exploded. How dare you speak to me like that? Claire smiled sadly. The same way you've spoken to everyone else for years. Then she removed the small diamond ring from her finger. The entire room gasped. Michael's eyes widened. Claire, but... He placed the ring in his hand. I'm done. I refuse to become the next Anna. And with those words, she walked away. Completely horrified. Everything was happening too fast. The image she had carefully protected for years was collapsing right in front of everyone. Then Michael slowly sat down. He looked broken. For the first time in his life, he truly understood the consequences of silence. Patricia grabbed his arm. Go after her. But he didn't move. Instead, he quietly said, Mom, please stop. She froze because she had never heard those words from him before. Then he looked directly at her. You blamed Anna for everything. But the truth is, nobody ruined my marriage except me. Patricia started crying. Michael, I only wanted what was best for you. He nodded sadly. I know, but somewhere along the way, you forgot to let me live my own life. Those words seemed to break something inside her for the first time all evening. Patricia had no response, no argument, no criticism, no manipulation, nothing, and strangely enough, I didn't feel victorious, I didn't feel happy. I simply felt free because I finally realized something. I had spent years trying to prove my worth to people who had already decided not to value me, and no amount of sacrifice would ever change that. Emily's wedding eventually continued. People returned to their tables, music started again, life moved forward, and honestly, so did I. Before leaving, Michael approached me one last time. His eyes were filled with regret. Anna? I'm sorry. I know I can't change the past. But I needed you to hear that. I smiled softly. I forgive you. His eyes filled with tears. Really? I nodded. Forgiveness doesn't mean I want my old life back. It just means I don't want to carry the pain anymore. For the first time in years, I saw peace on his face. And then we hugged. Not as husband and wife. Not as people trying again. But as two people finally saying goodbye. 6 months later, I received an unexpected invitation. Emily had given birth to a beautiful baby girl, and she wanted me to be the godmother. I cried when I read the card, because despite losing one family, I had somehow gained another. Meanwhile, I heard through relatives that Michael had started therapy. He moved into his own apartment, and for the first time in his life, he was learning how to make decisions without his mother's approval. As for Patricia, life became much quieter. Many relatives started keeping their distance, not out of cruelty, but because people eventually grow tired of drama. Last month, I unexpectedly ran into her at a grocery store. For a moment, we simply stood there. Then she quietly said, Anna, I owe you an apology. I was shocked because the first never thought those words would come. Tears filled her eyes. I blamed you because it was easier than admitting I was wrong. And by the time I realized what I'd done, It was too late. I smiled gently. Because sometimes healing doesn't come through revenge. Sometimes it comes through understanding. I hope you find peace, Patricia. She nodded. And then we walked away. Today, I'm 34 years old. I own my dream home. I have a career I love. I travel whenever I want. And most importantly, I'm happy. Not because karma punished someone, not because I proved anyone wrong, but because I finally learned something that changed my life. You don't need everyone to understand your value. The right people already will. And sometimes, the greatest blessing isn't the person who stays. It's the person who leaves and teaches you that you deserved better all along. The end.